Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown, joined as always with CJ Uri here. We're going to talk about returning sports, man. NHL soon is coming back. Baseball's having some arguments right now. There's some stuff going on at FAU. How you doing, CJ, during this quarantine?
Pretty good. I had some technical difficulties with my laptop, but my trusty assistant, Kylie, who I have in-house here, helped me out.
Save the show.
Yeah, she saved the show today, so I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Last Sunday, I was able to watch some live sports with the Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson, Tom Brady, which I loved. I miss golf. I'm excited for the new golf 2K game to come out in August, which I'm definitely going to get. I don't know about you, but yeah, and the FAU football is coming back June 8th. So they're coming back to campus to train, which is huge. So the school got that cleared. So it looks like there'll be a season, whether there's fans in the stands or not. Who cares? I just need to see some football and some action. So, and then we got the big news, which I'm sure Jacob will talk about with the NHL. So I'm excited, and sports are coming back and moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm with you on golf, dude. I mean, like, it's so cool to see golf in the mainstream too, because no one ever talks about golf unless really it's just the Masters. I watch all the tournaments myself, but in terms of everyone watching, it's really just the Masters. So it was cool just to see everyone watching it on one day. And I love the smack talk with Tom Brady and Peyton. It was great. And yeah, it really is great news for FAU for June 8th, mainly to me because you have a new coach and a new coaching staff, and they need to get acclimated with the players. And so if they didn't have that time to kind of introduce the new system for the school year, that would have worried me a little bit. So I like that they're getting this extra time nice and early here in June. And I definitely want to buy that golf video game. I got the hockey video game and Madden on sale, half off. So I've been obsessed with those. I built a dream team on NBA 2K. I've got MJ and LeBron on my Knicks team just to try it out. So I've been having some fun there. But
Jeez.
Yeah, you want to get to some NHL?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the one sports league in America that has come back and said, like, this is our plan. And, from a couple months ago, we had been talking about the 24-team format, which seemed to be the most logical. I'm glad the NHL went in the right direction. And Jacob, both of our teams, who were losers and were not actually in the playoffs, are now getting a shot. So the Rangers are playing who? The Carolina Hurricanes?
Yes, the Rangers are playing the Kings.
And my Panthers would be playing the Islanders, which, if you remember, in 2016, the Islanders beat the Panthers in the infamous game.
I do remember that one.
Vincent Trocheck got blatantly tripped right in front of the referee, and that was the last time that we were in the playoffs. Now, for everyone listening, they do not count these play-in series as you qualified for the playoffs. These are play-in series. So when you lose in these playoffs, these play-in games, it increases your chance in the lottery. When you're in the playoffs, you're not a part of the lottery. So any teams that are in the play-in game are still a part of the lottery. But these are 5-game play-in games, and if you win, then you're into the actual playoffs. So this is going to be really interesting to watch. Teams like the Panthers and the Rangers, if they win these 5-game series, they have to go right back into another series. So yeah, I guess this would be the ending of the season, regular season, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be a little bit more rushed. So say a team from the play-in series makes a run at the Cup. They have to have played one more 5-game series.
Right.
That the other teams didn't. So it's going to be really interesting to watch, but I'm excited. Fans are not. It's going to be big time, and the NHL is doing the right thing. They're going to get a bunch of viewers. So
yes.
We can't miss out on that. I mean, you saw what happened with the golf tournament, the golf match, the match 2, whatever they called it. There was record viewership, and they raised I don't even know how much money for coronavirus relief. So the NHL, there's no way that they're gonna miss out on this viewership that they could have. If they started the season tomorrow, this play-in series, it would be record-setting viewers just because people need something to watch.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, the thing with hockey that people don't realize, once you go to a hockey game in person, you're like, wow, this is the best thing ever. Going to a hockey game and experiencing that live in person is one of the best things you can do. And whenever anyone watches the playoffs, they always love it. So people don't realize how great hockey is until they actually watch it. And I think this is a huge opportunity for the NHL being the only sport on right now, because baseball, and we'll get to them later, they could have been the first. They're not going to be. and it looks like hockey's going to come back before basketball. So I'm going to read this article here from SI.com, a little excerpt that kind of describes all the little details. It says the NHL's modified playoff format will include a 16-team, 8-series qualifying round and a round-robin competition among the top 4 teams in each conference to determine seeding for the first round. The qualifying round and round-robin will be held at 2 hub cities to be identified, one for the 12 Eastern Conference teams and one for the 12 Western Conference teams. Under that framework, the top 4 Eastern teams are the Bruins, Lightning, Caps, and Flyers. Top 4 West are Blues, Avs, Golden Knights, and Stars. So then the league's hub cities will be chosen at a later date. They have a bunch of hub city candidates. They've got Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas, LA, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver as candidates. And then the 7 teams that aren't going to be in the playoffs at all, they won't even get to play in these play-ins. The Buffalo Sabres, the Devils, the Ducks, the Kings, Sharks, Senators, and Red Wings, and they'll all take place in the NHL Draft Lottery, which will hold its first phase on June 26th. So that's all from an SI.com article. I'll link that in the description below. So what are these play-in matchups? And we're going to give you our predictions right off the top of our heads, not really in-deep analysis, but just off the top of our heads who we think we're going to win. In the East, number 5, Pittsburgh versus number 12, Montreal. Number 6, Carolina versus number 11, Rangers. Number 7, Islanders versus number 10, Panthers. And number 8, Maple Leafs versus number 9, Blue Jackets. In the West, it's the number 5, Oilers versus the number 12, Blackhawks. The number 6, Predators versus the number 11, Coyotes. The number 7, Canucks versus the number 10, Wild. And the number 8, Flames versus the number 9, Jets. So we'll start at the top, CJ, with Penguins, Canadiens. I think this is one of the more obvious ones. I think Pittsburgh's got that series.
Yeah, I've got Pittsburgh. The Canadiens started to play really good hockey towards the end of the year, but that was all stunted. They haven't played a game in 2.5 months, 3 months, so that doesn't really matter anymore. So you're really going to look at it as roster talent and the will to win, and the Pittsburgh Penguins have both of those over the Montreal Canadiens. So I think that will be a 3-game sweep, in my opinion.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, especially because you're not going to have fans, so you can't even talk about home ice in this situation. To me, it's just best team wins in all of these series. Then you go on, Carolina and the Rangers. And funny story about this, we're seeing on Twitter right now, or really all over, the Hurricanes and the Lightning were the only 2 teams to deny this format in the entire league. Everyone else liked it except for these 2 teams. The Hurricanes actually proposed, this is real. They wanted to play the Rangers in this 5-game series, but they wanted the Rangers to have to beat them 4 out of 5 games to have to advance. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. I mean, that's just an unfair advantage, expecting your opponent to beat you 4 out of 5 times. And their excuse is because what did we grind for? Meaning they think that they would have been in a playoff spot and not have to have done this 5-game series in the first place. But I argue there were 13 games left, and who knows whether the Hurricanes would have made the playoffs or not. So they should just play this 5-game series. But I just found it really interesting that Carolina said no. It makes them kind of look scared of the Rangers in a way.
Yeah, I think that this quote and the Carolina Hurricanes acting like this alone just shows. I think the Rangers are going to win this series. Now, before all this, I didn't know what would happen, but I like the Rangers a lot, and they were playing such good hockey the second half of the season.
Yes.
And they're going to have some bodies back. I'm pretty sure Chris Kreider will actually be able to play in this. So
yeah.
I've got the Rangers. I think that organization in the league that's trending the most up, that was towards the cellar. And I think that they continue that, and they actually get into the playoffs for this play-in game. And I actually think the Carolina Hurricanes made some bad moves at the deadline this year.
Yeah.
They started to not even play good hockey when they got these new trade acquisitions. So I like the Rangers here. I think it's going to be a really good series. I think it goes to the final game, and I think it's Rangers 3-2.
Yeah, same. Everyone knows I'm a Ranger fan, but it's really not why I'm picking them. I think goalie goes to the Rangers. I think Igor Shesterkin is already better than any goalie that the Hurricanes have. I think the right side of that Rangers defense with Trouba, Fox, DeAngelo, that's one of the most elite right sides of the defense potentially in the league. Not yet. I'm saying the potentials of all 3 of those guys. And then you look at the stars. Panarin and Zibanejad, in my opinion, are better than any player that the Hurricanes have. You could argue Sebastian Aho, but in terms of this year, Panarin and Zibanejad are better than Aho is. So I definitely like the Rangers in that series, but we move on. The Islanders face your Panthers, CJ. And this is an interesting one. I look at the Islanders, they can't score, but the Panthers can't defend. So both teams have a really big glaring weakness. The Panthers obviously had less points. They're the number 10 seed. I would pick the Panthers. I really do. I think when you're in a short series, you need the team that can score the most goals and that can get the hottest goalie. I remember you, CJ. You were talking about Dreger, I think his name was, and of
Chris
course they have
Dreger.
Sergei Bobrovsky. What do you think about your Panthers in this series?
So I like the Panthers in this series, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but when it comes down to it, I think it's roster talent because there's no home ice advantage. I think that the Islanders would have like a little bit more of a home ice advantage here in this series because their crowd is more of traditional hockey fans. Now, the BB&T would sell out for any playoff series, and if they had fans for this play-in series, the place would sell out absolutely. But I still would give the home ice kind of grinded out physical game advantage to the Islanders because that's just how they play hockey. Here's the thing: no fans in the arena. That just creates even less pressure for a guy like Alexander Barkov and Jonathan Huberdeau to just destroy these New York Islanders. And I don't think the Islanders are a bad team, but they're just going forward and actually playing like offense. They're just not a good team. So when you come down to it, what's the better strength? So the Islanders their strength is defense. They play a tight knit defense, and the Panthers' strength is run and gun. They're going to try to put up 5 goals on you, 6 goals, like a touchdown on you every night. And for the most part, they've been doing that against teams. So I think the Panthers' offense is better than the Islanders' defense because the Panthers, if you look at their offense, they're top 8, I think, in the league. Because I know they weren't 9 or 10, but they were in the top 8 of the league and just in total offense.
I mean,
and
you
they
were
doing that against
with Toronto.
Yeah. They were up there with Toronto, which we all know Toronto is, they're built to score. So, and the wild card here is Panthers goaltending. So towards the end of the season before coronavirus hit, Chris Dreger inspired that defense to actually start playing good defense. So right before coronavirus, we were on a 3 or 4 game win streak. We had beat the Blues, San Jose Sharks. We were playing against teams with really good rosters or just really good Stanley Cup defending teams in general. And Chris Dreger was playing out of his mind. The defense was actually playing hockey in front of him. So the wild card here is, who are the Panthers going to start in net? They paid Sergei Bobrovsky the big bucks to be performing on these stages. But the thing is Chris Dreger was playing better than Bobrovsky before the break and was starting every game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it earlier in the show. I mean, you said, streaks don't really matter right now. It's about the best talent. And I think you got to give it to Bobrovsky for that reason, because it's been 2.5 months. Maybe Dreger's not on that same flow and roll that he was at that time. So I would go with Sergei, especially. I mean, look, dude, 1 year ago today, Sergei Bobrovsky was the goaltender of the Columbus Blue Jackets, going on the unbelievable run that he was last year with elite goaltending, and they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's the guy that the Panthers have. I think he's got to be the guy in net. I would find it interesting, though, for the Islanders. They signed this Russian goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. I don't know if he's going to play in this series, but the future of the Islanders looks fantastic with him in net for sure.
They need to definitely get some forward help, though, because they've got the defense and the goaltending. Yeah. They just need, even if you give them line 1 and line 2 are above average, then they're literally cup contending team because that's how good their defense and goaltending is. It's just outside of 2 or 3 players, like their offense is so horrendous, and that'll play into the Panthers' hands. And people need to understand, nobody really watches the Florida Panthers, but these players have been waiting for this. Like waiting, they need. This is the Panthers' moment. This is their defining moment in their young core. Because if they don't get into the playoffs and they do not win this play-in series, there's going to be a lot of guys that are gone. And I know a lot of these players are really comfortable with their South Florida lifestyle and they love it down here. But Dale Talon's on the hot seat. The owner's getting restless with all this stuff going on with the team and the drama and guys not happy because they're not winning and guys that are being lazy. This is their moment to say, I want to be a Panther, and we're going to go forward with this young core. So this is going to be a series where I think it goes 3-2 Florida or 3-1. But obviously it's not going to be a sweep. The Panthers aren't good enough to sweep anyone. So that's my take. On to the next one.
Yeah, so we got the number 8 Leafs versus the number 9 Blue Jackets. And what's really interesting about the Blue Jackets, they're going to be completely healthy almost, except for Brandon Dubinsky. So all of those injuries that we're hearing about all year, and I'm just going to read them off real quick because there's so many of them. You have Seth Jones, who's their best defenseman. Werenski was injured for a period of time, but he was healthy when the season ended. Oliver Bjorkstrand was injured. Cam Atkinson was injured. Josh Anderson was injured. Alexander Texier, Dean Kukan, Nathan Gerby. I mean, every single one of those guys was injured when the season ended. So it was really remarkable that they were even able to keep pace and be in a top 8 spot with all of those guys injured. But you look at Toronto and you say, well, Austin Matthews, John Tavares, William Nylander, that's kind of scary. So who are you leaning here? Because I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I would probably go Leafs, but I could see it going either way.
So I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs here. I don't think they're good enough to sweep the Blue Jackets, and the Blue Jackets play really hard. So I would probably do Toronto 3-1 here. I don't have much to say about the series because the Toronto Maple Leafs are just that good. Their defense is way too bad. It's just awful for them to actually sweep someone. And you need a combo of offense and defense to sweep someone. The Blue Jackets have enough talent to at least win a game in the series. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I would not be surprised if the Blue Jackets made this to go down to Game 5. I still have the Maple Leafs winning, and then they have to run into their best round one friend, the Boston Bruins, and then they'll get bounced back to Toronto.
Oof. So we'll move on to the West now, and we'll go a little faster paced here. And I had it right here pulled up. There it is. So we got the Oilers versus the Blackhawks, and I've seen a lot of people saying the Blackhawks could make a little bit of a run here. I wouldn't say that. I think Edmonton's got this series in the bag. What do you think about this one?
Sweet. Connor McDavid's rested. He's healthy. Leon Draisaitl just won the Art Ross Trophy. So McDavid, Draisaitl, actually healthy, getting on the ice. They're going to be flying all over this Blackhawks team. It'll literally be a 3-0 sweep.
Yeah. Don't give me Alex DeBrincat. I'll take Connor McDavid. So the other team.
DeBrincat's a good player. I think he potted like 30 or 40 goals like a season ago. He's a good guy. He's a good player, but that guy's not going to stop McDavid or Draisaitl. Exactly. Like every game could be 5-4, but every game, no matter what, the Oilers are going to win. So
for sure. And then we got Predators and Coyotes. And you know what? Thank God for the Coyotes, because if they had traded for Taylor Hall, you brought this up like a while ago on our FAUL radio show. If they had gotten, if the Coyotes had not made the playoffs and traded for Taylor Hall, that would have been a really bad look. So at least now they have a chance to compete for the playoffs with Taylor Hall. Do you think they can win this series?
Yeah, actually I do. I'm going to give it to the Coyotes here. This is an organization that's desperate to get into the playoffs, and I think it's going to outweigh the Predators' talent. And I don't think the Predators have been playing good hockey at all this year. For the Coyotes, I think they've exceeded a little bit of expectations, and that's why I gave them the edge. Once again, no pressure. If Nashville Predators really pry on that home crowd. And, I've been in Nashville. I've been up there when there's been a playoff series, and you can literally hear it from the streets. You can hear it all the way down Broadway Street. Like, these people are nuts, and they're not going to have that. And I like the Coyotes with not a lot of pressure in the arena. They're going to pull this one out. I go 3-2 Coyotes here.
Yeah, I think the Coyotes have more talent, and really the Predators have more guys on their defense that are better at moving the puck than they do scorers on offense. It's pretty insane because other than Philip Forsberg, there's really no one else performing in Nashville offensively. So I'm with you there. Then it's Vancouver and Minnesota. This is a sweep for me, Vancouver. Minnesota is the biggest fluke team in the NHL. I'm going Vancouver in a bag here. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I like Vancouver in this series. I like the Canucks. Their season in general has been going really well. And, I'm a Canucks fan this season, so I would go Vancouver Canucks in the series just like you.
Okay, so then we got Flames and Jets here. So this is, two Canadian teams facing each other. I've got Winnipeg. I think they're bigger. They're stronger. They're faster. And they've got more top-scoring guys. If you look up and down their roster, those first two lines – they've got crazy guys that are scoring crazy amounts of points, and I like Hellebuck in net, so I've got Winnipeg in this series. What about you, CJ?
I got Winnipeg in the series as well. I got them in 5, though. This will go down to the wire, and this will probably be the most storylined, heated series because they're two Canadian teams going at each other. And what I would have liked is Edmonton versus Calgary in the actual playoffs.
Yeah,
that would have been nuts, but we're not going to, probably won't be able to see that. So I will go Winnipeg in 5. And I do it because of Connor Hellebuck. I think outside of the goaltending, they are a very similar team.
So some more sports that are coming back. The Premier League soccer is coming back in Europe. as well as many other European leagues. CJ, you're way more caught up on that stuff than I am. Are you excited for the Premier League coming back?
Yeah, I'm very excited. So Bundesliga has already returned for 2 seasons. For everybody that doesn't know what Bundesliga is, it's a German soccer league, and they've been doing very good ratings-wise over in Europe because that's what the people have been able to watch. So to put it in perspective, soccer or football, as people call it in Europe, is the mecca of sports over there. So teams play once a week for the most part for their domestic league. So right now, Saturdays and Sundays is when Bundesliga is playing, and that's when Premier League plays and La Liga plays, which is the Spanish Division 1 team. So this is like the NFL for them. So they're getting their number one sport back, and it's crushed ratings. And I think that a lot of other leagues were waiting to see how Bundesliga was going to go, and it doesn't look like any confirmed cases are coming out for any of the players. Everyone's able to play. They resume the season. They can finish it off. So that prompted Premier League to say, we're going to start June 17th. That prompted La Liga to say, we're going to start June 11th. So we're getting sports back on multiple continents here, which is huge. And these leagues, it's not just American League. It's not just the NHL, the MLB, the NBA that are really affected by this. It's also leagues over in Europe, over in other countries and continents, and these leagues need to get back to their sport, and they need to finish up because some teams deserve a championship. Some teams deserve that they're a point or two off from the league title, and that's just not fair to call it. So I'm glad that these teams get to finish it out, and they were in a very similar spot to how the NHL was and the NBA was. They were on the home stretch. They had 7 games left of their season, like 7 more weeks, like 8 more weeks of their season left to come. So they needed to finish it off. And now they get to finish it off. And, our summer won't be dominated by baseball now. You're gonna have pretty much every sport going at once. So that's that. So, anybody who is a sports bettor or a avid sports follower, you will have a lot to be watching in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is being played. Not here, it's being played in Korea. So I haven't really been watching any of that. It hasn't been that fun. I love that soccer's coming back, though. It's actually something that I might start picking up. It's something that I should have been, caught up on all this time, considering that I host a sports podcast here. But, I'm really excited those leagues are back, and I'm definitely going to watch them soon. But I'm going to move into baseball now, and I'm very mad at Major League Baseball right now, mainly at both sides. Stephen Cashin, our co-host here, he's currently working today. He would have had some input on this as well, but he'll be on our next pod and the pod after that, so he'll give his thoughts on this. Obviously, he's our big baseball guy. We did all the baseball previews, which actually we did all those baseball previews for nothing, come to think of it, because the baseball season is not going to happen most likely. Now, some players are saying it's 50-50. Most insiders are saying, no, it's not going to happen. Now, there's one guy that I really trust. His name's Trevor Plouffe. I've mentioned him on a prior podcast. He's a former MLB baseball player. He's the co-host on Talkin' Baseball on John Boy Media. They're a major podcast network. I really follow them. They have a bunch of great shows. And he's reporting his thought on this is he thinks the Major League Baseball right now, he thinks the owners are purposely drawing these negotiations out so that the owners can play as little games as possible, meaning 60, because they've determined that 60 games is the least amount of games that they would have to play to get a playoff at the end of the season. So his theory is he thinks the owners are waiting to get to 60 games so that they don't lose a ton of revenue and so that they can pay the players as little as possible. So that's where I look at the owners and I say, shame on you. This is all a money grab. You should be able to come back and pay the money. But where I go against the players is they're saying, we don't want to take a pay cut. Well, at the end of the day, their pay cut is 4 times more than the average American salary. So I'm sorry if you have to take a pay cut on your $1 million a year salary. I think you could do just fine for a few months. I understand that it's a sacrifice and you've worked your entire life to get the most amount of money possible. But I think players have to get to the point and understand that we're in a global pandemic. And I think baseball players complaining about pay cuts is not something that the public really wants to hear about right now. And it's not really something that anyone should care about. Again, if you make a $1 million a year salary in Major League Baseball right now, you would make $218,000 this year. That's an enormous pay cut, and I completely understand why they would hate that. And I agree with them that the owners should give them more money. But $211,000 for 1 year, you can survive on that. I think they can do okay for 1 year and get their million again next year. So I look at baseball right now. They had such a big opportunity to come back. Now they're going to let hockey come back and drive the talk. They're going to let basketball come back, which was already way more popular than them. And now baseball might fall to the wayside. And now there's even rumors that this might carry over into 2021 because they were supposed to negotiate the collective bargaining agreement after the 2021 season. So most of this negotiation might be posturing for the CBA, which I find just very repugnant. So in my eyes, Major League Baseball needs to come back, whether it's for 100 games, 80 games, 60 games, whatever it is. Give the players more money than what the owners are already proposing. They deserve it. They don't deserve to get over 80% of their pay cut canceled if you're making $1 million. I agree with them, but I still say $211,000 is enough to survive. What are you thinking, CJ, with all this financial squabbling in Major League Baseball?
Oh, I am probably the MLB's number one hater. Now, I actually don't really mind watching baseball.
My favorite sport, guys.
Yeah, I don't really mind watching baseball. When the MLB playoff is on, I watch it. I'm glued to the TV with my friends. I'm just very overly critical of the MLB because there's a bunch of shitbags in the MLB, and I feel like there's some really shitty owners and there's really shitty front office with a bad commissioner. So the way I look at it is this. The last two times that you hear about the MLB has been really shitty news coverage about the MLB. Okay? So the last time, what were we talking about before all this?
Yeah,
the Astros cheating. And then the Boston Red Sox cheating. And then other organizations that might be sign stealing. That's not good at all for baseball. Now we're going to go into this where these players are like, nah, that's not going to be enough money for me. That's ridiculous. And then all I see online is all these minor leaguers getting cut. Because it's the MLB. We need to have a single A, a double A, and a triple A, and the MLB, because we're the MLB, right? We need to have gajillion players on payroll, which I don't know how all these guys get paid, the amounts that they get paid, but whatever. So, honestly, baseball deserves this. I think that this has been coming. This has been coming at the MLB for a long time, and the coronavirus is just the tipping point of all this. I don't even think I would blame this on coronavirus. I just really think that the MLB has got the wrong people in the wrong positions. I think they've got a bunch of players that are just severely overpaid. Like you got guys like Mike Trout and Bryce Harper that they're top 10 in the sport. Mike Trout's definitely the best baseball player on the planet, but they're signing contracts that are worth $330 million, and you're just sitting there, and it's like these guys won't even take $211K for a season just to get the season underway. It's like half a season.
Well, yeah, that's that's just for the $1 million salary a year. For Mike Trout, I think, so at least for Garrett Cole, he would go from 33 per year, I think, to 9.
Yeah, so that's the end of the world, right? I'm Garrett Cole. I'm going to make $9 million this year, playing half a season. This is the worst thing of all time. And the best part is when you're a pitcher and you're in rotation, he starts like once or twice a week.
Right.
Like, give me a break. It's just ridiculous. And that's why MLB has a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and I just don't feel like people really give a shit about the MLB as much anymore. Now, there's the diehard MLB fans that carry the sport, for sure. Like you. Like my friend Michael Shapiro, who's probably going to listen to this later. Stephen Cashin. That sit there and they're like, the MLB can do no wrong. It's America's pastime. Well, I don't think people really give a shit that it's America's pastime anymore. People are more concerned about the NFL virtual draft than they are about when the fucking MLB playoffs or MLB regular season is going to start. No one cares. No one wants to. You look at Miami Marlins have won 2 World Series, okay? And they're not even they're not necessarily recent World Series, but one was in the 2000s and the other one was in the 90s. That's enough to really get a large fan base going. People don't care about the Miami Marlins down here, even with the gorgeous stadium. Yeah, they suck, but the thing is why like that's the problem with the MLB. It's like unless you're an original team, you're struggling. Like so many teams in the MLB are just struggling right now, and the problems are so deeply rooted. And I'm just a casual fan. I don't even really watch the MLB that much, but the fact that a guy like Garrett Cole can't just settle for $9 million a year just shows how deeply rooted these issues are in the MLB. And I agree. This might spill over to 2021. There might not be a season this year, and the next season might start late because these guys can't come to an agreement. So I agree with you. I'm mad, and I'm not even mad because the season won't start. I don't give a shit if the season won't start. These guys are just greedy. These owners are ridiculous, and the commissioner before all this was making some terrible changes with the rules, and he was handling the Houston Astros cheating scandal completely poorly. So that's it. I'm done with the MLB, and screw them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you present a lot of valid points. I think, listen, the Marlins, I think they have a lot of problems over there with why fans don't really pay attention at all. They've literally ripped up the team on multiple occasions, and fans have really felt betrayed over there. I will say, like, when the World Baseball Classic was going around and all these countries were playing, and then they went to Marlins Park was sold out. So that's what your point was, that if your team isn't good, you just don't give a shit. You can't watch 162 games. You can't even watch your home games. You don't want to pay $150 to go to the game. It's just not worth it. And so I'm a Yankee fan. I'm spoiled, right? If we go 3 years without, making the playoffs, there's a riot in the Bronx, right? So, they're always making the playoffs. The Yankees are always relevant. Same with Steven and Shapiro. Shapiro likes the Red Sox. They're always good. The Rays are always competitive. So if you're in a market where your team sucks or you don't have a team, you just don't care about baseball, and that's just the way that it's been. And I think the reason for that, you brought up multiple reasons. I think dysfunction at the upper levels is clear. Rob Manfred's, just dysfunctional and incompetent as commissioner of Major League Baseball. Bud Selig was much better. Where I think they really, and I think a lot of people have brought this up. I'm not the first one to say this. Baseball is reluctant to change. The NFL, every year, it seems like, and they're doing it right now with the 4th and 15 rule. They'll change their rules whenever to shake things up, to make things more interesting, to make things fair. It's 2020 and pitchers still hit in the National League. Are you kidding me? I still have to watch a fucking starting pitcher hit 102 and have 4 at-bats a game and not watch DH hit 40 home runs a year? Baseball couldn't even do that. There's so many things that baseball hasn't done. There's so many rule changes that they could have had. And then the rule changes that they have done, like the 3-batter rule. What is that? The 3-batter rule literally changes the way you manage a game. You talk about strategy, that changes strategy. So everyone's obsessed with strategy with this no DH thing. Well, there's not really a lot of strategy associated with the DH. If you don't have a DH, what's the strategy that you have to make? Who you're going to pinch hit for the pitcher in the 5th inning? That's not too big of a monumental decision. That is who's going to hit right now. That's, not X's and O's like a football team or defensive strategy. Who gives a shit about Madison Bumgarner hitting 1 home run a year? I've never cared. I'd rather see Big Papi hit 40 a year. I'm sorry. So it took them this long to get to a universal DH. But, yeah, I think a lot of your points are right, CJ. People just don't care. Too many games. If your team sucks, you don't care. No one cares until the playoffs. Football's more relevant. Basketball's more relevant. The baseball markets their stars terribly. And, yeah, I think that's my baseball route. You've really been enjoying this one.
Yeah, I have. I just honestly, dude, screw the MLB. I just can't. Like, I got my tech assistant here in the room right now, and she just said, "Well, the Dolphins suck, and people still come."
Yeah.
Exactly. Like this is just the thing. People don't give a shit about the MLB. Like no one. Like there's a lot of people that care, but for the most part, people don't give a shit about the MLB. And that's just. And these players don't make it any better. Like I don't know. I don't know. I think the MLB is just far, far, far away from the times. The NHL has adapted. There's actually marketable stars in the MLB, like Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews is flashy. He's he wears like ridiculous things sometimes. Like he's like a Russell Westbrook kind of guy. Comes down the tunnel wearing something cool. People like to see that on ESPN and NHL Network. They're like, oh, let's see what Matthews is wearing tonight to the game.
Yeah.
Guys like Connor McDavid, that cool, calm, collected superstar, best player in the league. Alex Ovechkin, he's, drinking beers and after the cup, and TJ Oshie's waterboarding people. The NHL, people still say is the least popular of the major sports, even though it's still very popular. I disagree now. The NHL has completely surpassed the MLB in popularity, and that's just the problem with the MLB. And the thing is every time they make some progress, they take 2 steps back. So that's my MLB thing.
I don't know if hockey's surpassed baseball yet, because obviously the baseball revenues
can
are
talk
like
on the
way
next show.
higher. Wait, what?
Okay. So really quickly before we wrap up the show, something I want to bring up on the next podcast is something I had actually spoke about when we were in studio at FAU Owl Radio, which was a system that can maybe be put in place to where NFL draftees can maybe go back to college. And something like that is actually materializing. The Michigan head coach, Coach Harbaugh, is pioneering and frontlining this movement to where if you are drafted in the 6th round or later, you have the option to go back to college and improve your draft stock. I don't know the full details of what's going to happen. What I originally said would work would be if you were drafted in a later round and you wanted to go back to college, basically like a minor league type thing. You just go back to college on assignment, try to get better, come back the next year. Something like that. But it looks like the NCAA and the NFL could be looking towards doing something like this, which I think is great for all sports. So that might be a topic that we can bring up the next episode. I know that the next episode we're doing the Michael Jordan documentary review, which finally about to finish it. And I'm at the Karl Malone, John Stockton part. So I'm looking forward to watching more of that tonight. But yeah, that's it for me. And Jacob, I know you have some final thoughts, so here you go.
Yeah, so we're going to tease possibly a little announcement coming on Tuesday's pod. We're going to have a little conversation about that in the next few days, so that's going to be certainly something pretty cool potentially that's going to happen. But yeah, like just to clarify my baseball statements, literally it's my number one favorite sport, and I'm this mad at it. And I want to say too, about this pay cut stuff with the players. I don't like the salary cap. I've never been a proponent of the salary cap. So I've always loved that baseball has the luxury tax, that if you spend too much, you have the option to at least spend more than the cap, right? But then you get taxed on it. So I've always been fine with that. But what that does is it makes other teams lower, like the Marlins, the Pirates. They're in these endless abysses where they're never going to win. So I see both sides, but like I'm one of these baseball diehard fans that I'm not going to deny the bad things about baseball, but I'm going to really embrace the good things. I love it. I love that there's, the journey for 6 months throughout a season, but I also understand the people that want 80 games, because 162 is a lot. That's 6 months every single day. So, but yeah, baseball is a very niche sport, and, I just hope it comes back. And yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday. Steven will be back with us, hopefully, for that podcast to talk about MJ. We'll talk about your idea with the NFL draft, about players coming back. They've always been able to do that in baseball, but if they start that in football, I think it's huge. And then combine that with the news about player likeness and players being able to make money off of themselves in college now. I think all of this stuff is kind of correlating right now, and it's all kind of happening at the same time. So it can be some cool discussion on this next Tuesday's show. So for this edition of Strictly Sports, that's CJ Uri. I'm Jacob Brown, and we will see you next time.
See ya.